How we doing? How you
Hey,
doing?
how you? I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much. Welcome everyone who is watching. Welcome to Manny Super Civic Cyber Conversations. It's a mouthful. Hashtag MSCCC for those of you that want to tag us online. And for those of you that it's your first time here on the cyber realm of Manny's, um, so today we're going to be talking about the ideal queer dancing. But before we get into that, I just want to do a little plug for us at Manny's. So for Manny's, we typically do events physically in the space, person to person, contact to contact. But of course, with everything that is going on, we have moved everything to the cyber realm. And here we are. But if you still want to keep supporting us in all the work that we do of civic engagement, please donate if you are able to. I have a link in the chat box, which is www.joinit.org/mannies. So if you have a couple dollars in your bank account, there's the link. Why not? And the first 20 minutes of this conversation is going to be me and the wonderful, the moment, Levi, and us having a little kiki. And the last 20 minutes is going to be a Q&A. It's going to be the Q&A portion. So during the first 20 minutes, if you think of a question to ask us, go down and click on the Q&A and write in your question, and we'll answer that for you, baby.
Yep.
Um, so we're here, girl. Levi Maxwell. What
Yes.
are you?
Speaking.
What do you
What
do?
are you? As I said, I'm a moment and an experience, but I'm also someone who considers themselves a San Francisco local now. My family came here 60 years ago from the bayous of Louisiana to Haight-Ashbury back when it was still black before the hippies took it.
Ooh.
But I'm originally from Vacaville, California, and I came here as a runaway, 17-year-old. I've done a lot of things here, but I can say over the past couple of years, I've spent a lot of time in queer nightlife and in queer community, working at first in the daytime as a queer homeless youth advocate and navigator, providing services, material resources, monetary resources, and transitioning off into nightlife and working with a number of amazing parties and venues around San Francisco and Oakland.
I love that. I met you, I want to say about a year ago. And at the
Mhm.
time, you were working at the LGBT Center, correct?
Yep.
Okay. But after I got to know you a little better, I would see you around in all the queer bars around San Francisco.
Yeah.
Which leads me to my next question. What has been your favorite queer scene anywhere
Uh,
in the United States?
Yeah, I mean, San Francisco is something spectacular.
Mm.
Um, it has a lot of issues around gender and around race and class. But what I would say is, compared to any other city that I have ever gone to or lived in, I lived from Hawaii to New York City and back multiple times. San Francisco has the most density of different scenes, small and large, like upwards of, I know about like 15 different scenes that are queer in San Francisco that I've intermingled and mixed all around in. My favorite particular communities are two, and there is intersection. It's the QTPOC scenes that exist. So Swagger Like Us, there's a party called Reunion, SF, which really kind of centers and caters to people of color, or in Reunion SF's case, specifically Black queer people, but open to others. And my second favorite kind of scene, or not second, but my other favorite scene is the disco scene that's been developing over the past 5 years in terms of resurgence. So it would be like Dudes in Disco, Go Bang. There's like two different disco parties that happen at Eagle, as well as the oldest running party, gay party in the country, in Aunt Charlie's,
Gotcha.
which is like amazing. It's so cute and intimate, and it's amazing music. And you can't, have your cell phone on the bar, and you have to engage with people.
Definitely. For those of you that don't know, on Charlie's is this historic gay trans bar in the Civic Center. It is very tiny. They have drag shows almost every other day during the week, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
and
just like, it was packed. Like it's consistently like when the drag, like it's the bar that I feel like a significant chunk of the drag community in San Francisco started out at. And it was, and it is, and it will remain, as far as I'm concerned, like the gym for people who've lived in San Francisco long enough to know about it.
definitely. So I would recommend
And
y'all to check out on Charlie's once this all blows over. It's cash
yeah,
only. It's very limited in space, so be there early, girls.
but I have to tell you this right now, those drinks are strong and affordable, baby.
Mm.
And if the bartender likes you, you're set.
You're set for the night, girl.
Hmm.
Okay, and you also mentioned the Eagle, which had a disco scene, correct?
Yeah. So they have a Sylvester commemoration party on his birthday. If you guys don't know, Sylvester was the first Grand Marshal of San Francisco's Pride. They were the disco queen that existed, like beyond just, people talk about Donna Summers and Diana Ross. Diana Ross's birthday was yesterday. Sylvester was an openly gay man. Some people would call them non-binary or gender non-conforming due to their presentation, but who blasted off from the Cockettes, which was a collective of queer performance artists in the Haight, and created a solo career where they were a world-renowned disco singer. And at Eagle, every year on their birthday, they commemorate their life. There's a Sunday disco party that happens as well, which is really beautiful. They have, a lot of great material that goes on there. And then there is I would say like Eagle represents a great cross section of San Francisco. It is a leather and kind of kink bar historically because it is on Folsom, but it's another watering hole where there's bands that play, there's different kink parties that play, and I think disco is one of those happy moments where you have a cross section of Eagle all at one place at one time.
I love that. I'm definitely have to check it out once this is all over.
Yeah,
And I keep referencing this is all over. So now let's get into it. Um,
let's do
so,
it.
girl, there's a pandemic going on. I don't know if you know that.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, a lot of our favorite bars and restaurants have closed down for shelter in place. Which means that everybody that was employed at bars, meaning the bartenders, performers, artists, right now they are not able to go to work
Yeah.
and make a living. So I wanted just to sort of like get into how this pandemic will fundamentally change the queer scene, not just here in San Francisco, but in general, all over the world.
Yeah, I mean, we are at this weird time where it's just like everything's shut down. In a lot of ways, it's almost as if gay spaces don't exist, right? Because they're paused right now, but we can't go to them, we can't access them physically. But what I've been seeing are all these creatives who are coming together online to provide platforms for folks to connect and to dance and to move and to just listen. um, Isolation is very easy right now. And of course, we can have Zoom conversations, we can text back and forth. But I think it's also something that's like magical to know that, you can be on a Facebook or an Instagram live and have 10, 20, 50, 100 people who are listening to the same music with you. I myself am even trying to figure out ways in which I can I was a disco dancer for a number of parties, and I became a host for a number of parties due to my disco dancing, thinking of ways in which I can actually record myself dancing to DJs that are around in sync, for folks to look and view and to have fun with. Um, I have been hearing a
Links
number
that
of
we can
people.
share?
Hmm? Huh?
Do you have links that we can share of those videos that you made? Links.
Oh, I'm gonna have to find them. I honestly, like, I was avoiding cameras for 6 years, and I only started to get recorded recently. I did do a set for Purple Disco Machine, which is probably like the top disco dance like DJ in the world. It was an amazing opportunity for me to be able to dance for him literally the weekend before the what do you call it, self-isolation was kind of like put into policy, and like it was forced to shut down a number of venues. But I do want to be able to have an outlet, one, so that I can get some exercise, right, because I'm cooped up in this house all day, but also to add another layer of experience to not only the culture of nightlife but the movement and the joy that comes with it. I have heard people talking about raves and the recreation of underground nightlife, in which people are in relative contact. I've heard about 6 foot raves kind of being created, in which like people are able to keep a distance but be able to at least share a same space. And I think that like the reality is like people aren't going to be cooped up for 2, 6, 12 months, that we have to begin to have that conversation of what does a harm reductive space look like for nightlife. In the same way that we talk about harm reductive spaces in bathhouses and saunas and safe injection sites. And I'm hoping that like, you know, people are able to understand, especially for young queer people, who just want to be able to be themselves and connect with other queer people, that this is going to happen. And what are our strategies in supporting them?
Exactly. So we did discuss this in our pre-call about how, this will, as we mentioned, fundamentally change how our community interacts and how we are in community together. But nonetheless, we also mentioned how, our community is all we have, and it's, for a lot of us, it's our entire support system. So it has to happen. We have to find a way in which we can all come together while still abiding by social distancing and not being physically near each other so
Yeah.
much. But it's something that we need to find our space where we feel liberated and free and joyous and happy, while making sure that we are safe and we are healthy and we are also respecting the boundaries of our friends.
Yeah.
So, um, what are like some ideas that you have for that? You did mention something about the woods and being
Yeah.
out in open spaces while being in each other's presence.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really important to speak on the fact that touch is an extremely important, and I would say foundational aspect of queer nightlife.
Mm-hmm.
In a world that really looks down on homosexuality and transness and trans attraction, the idea of touch in queer spaces is not only revolutionary, but it's liberating and it's freeing. But and I do not like the associations oftentimes used with HIV with COVID-19.
Yeah.
But we're kind of at a turning point where when the AIDS epidemic was happening, like, you know, people outside of the community and within the community were absolutely like busting down, for example, cruising spaces that existed in Golden Gate Park and around San Francisco. Police were raiding bathhouses. San Francisco actually has a law to this day that right before COVID-19 came about, was talking about lifting the ban on bathhouses. That touch can have consequences to one's health and the health and well-being of their community. I think that there are creative ways in which young people, especially, but all queer people in nightlife are thinking about, in terms of like reconnecting. Um, my chosen family are nightlife people for the most part. They're people who got me the house that I'm in now, and I was able to leave transitional housing in a hotel. They connected me to my jobs. They've connected me to safety nets in this time. And I don't want to starve someone else in need of that.
Yeah.
But you know, there are opportunities for people to come together, and this is the thing. I have to say this again. Just like, you know, people who use substances, especially intramuscular injections, is going to happen. So what are we going to do about it? You know, when you go into Steamworks, which is a a bathhouse in which people engage in sex, there are condoms. There are people that do HIV testing there. There are, staff who are making sure that the spaces are hygienic. And I think that that can and probably will be replicated by people who are volunteering to support. The fear that I have is well-meaning people who are really caring about young queers especially, but queer people of color, trans people, low income people who might not be able to have access to medical services, actively trying to shut these things that are going to come about down. And one, calling the police, which is dangerous for us, many of us. But secondly, forcing people to go further and further underground where harm reductive resources around cleanliness, hygiene, and safety are not taken into account. And I really want people, I don't know how many people are watching, if any, or who will later, but it's just like really kind of ask yourselves, like, you know, you might not like this, you might absolutely disagree with this, but do you at least want to know that it's happening somewhere and that there are safety nets, or do you not want to know what's going on and leave a lot of people at risk? Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. These are all very, valid points that we should all be discussing. Um, which,
In Spain, oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
So in Spain, actually, a couple days ago, the police raided a private party in which people were engaging in sexual acts, and I think it was upwards of 30 people were there. Now, of course, this is right when isolation was going on.
Yeah.
People were honestly fearful with so many people coming into one room of an apartment building, and people were named and shamed. I understand fear and I understand people's desire for safety. And I don't feel like an apartment building with families and children is probably the best place to be engaging in that. But we will, as time go on, as this becomes a new normal, ask ourselves, what is the gray area?
Mhm.
Because it's not going to be black and white after 6 months, baby.
That is very true. So, which leads me on to my next question, in which, what are the challenges today, and what will nightlife look in the future?
Yeah.
And as you just mentioned, we shouldn't ignore what is going on right now, because it will definitely make a change, and we will feel it, and how we interact, and
For years to come.
for years to
For
come.
years to come.
And it's a reality that it's very hard to swallow. Nonetheless, it is a reality that we can get accustomed to. It is a reality that we can thrive in, nonetheless.
Yeah.
But there are definitely going to be those challenges that is going to make gathering in community quite difficult, quite rough. We were just talking about this in other conversations. A lot of our favorite bars, a lot of our favorite gathering spaces, they're in danger. They are in danger of not being able to reopen again. They're in danger of not
Weather
being
this storm. Yeah.
exactly. And that's already, and it's also part of a process that is also very apparent in San Francisco, which is the process of gentrification. A lot of our bars were already threatened by this economic process, and now that this is happening, it makes them even much more vulnerable.
Absolutely. I mean, we're going to have to come to terms with the fact that a lot of our favorite bars were paycheck to paycheck. It was based off of one or two big parties a month, a giant party during Pride. I don't think Pride is going to happen this year.
Yeah.
A number of events that kind of really keep the bar going from spring to fall that are not going to happen. And there's some people that are saying, well, we might get into an economic recession again, and thus people will be safe. But that also means people won't be going to bars if we're even able to go back into a bar when the recession happens. So we're going to be talking about if and when, like when this does end, when a vaccine is made, when there is some sort of cure that is made, our venues are going to be gone. And I think we have to ask ourselves, one, what are the spaces that are going to be left? Who are the people that own those spaces, and what are the beliefs and politics of the people that own those gay spaces that are left? Because I can guarantee you, while queer spaces are absolutely in danger, there's a lot of non-queer gay spaces that are going to be relatively safe in areas, San Francisco and neighborhoods of San Francisco that are not known for being trans friendly and the most affirming of people of color. And we have to ask ourselves, what's the accountability process for those that are able to survive this? And we also have to ask ourselves, what are new spaces that we can create in the wake of all of this that can keep on like the spirit?
Definitely.
Queer people will party anywhere.
Yeah.
Anywhere. The amount of queer I lived with a bunch of undocumented queer youth from like Nigeria and Jamaica and places where like death happens. Like it's not a matter of if but when. Who talked about before they came to America, yes, it was very dangerous. Saudi Arabia, where there are dangers that happen, but people still partied. There's like videos that you can find of gay weddings in Saudi Arabia. Literally, queer people will find spaces, and I think we just have to be open to almost like a reversal of like the queer trajectory, where we find something that's abandoned. We find a space that we can utilize, and it may be ephemeral, but it's something that holds a permanent place in our hearts and in our memories. And understanding that is really important. We love our venues. We love our bar owners and our bar people who I can go to 3 or 4 days a week, and I know that they're there. But I think there's going to be a level of trauma that exists even after, let's say, a vaccine is created, where people are not going to want to necessarily be in the same kind of proximity. People will not want to be in a club with 400 people and everyone's packed like sardines. You know, and just like how HIV changed the ways in which people engage with sex and conversations of consent, we're also going to have to talk about the ways in which people are informed by this new epidemic.
Definitely.
Also, wait, am I talking too much or too long? Am I?
No,
Okay.
this is the moment. You're the moment. Remember that.
Okay. I just want to be mindful.
Before we move on to the Q&A portions, for those of you watching, if you have any questions for us, please put in some questions. But before we go on to that, I wanted to make a quick plug to the San Francisco Nightlife Fund, which was what we were talking about. If I know we're asking for too much coin from you guys, but any dollar that you have to spare, every couple of dollars, please donate to the San Francisco Nightlife Fund for all those folks that, as we mentioned, were employed at bars, bartenders, performers, artists. This is for them. It is how, you know, we continue to support them despite everything that is going on. And you know what? Us in the queer community is very important to be in solidarity with each other and support each other. And this is a way how to do it. Our wonderful operator put a link in the chat box, which you'll be able to find the San Francisco Queer Nightlife Fund. So click on that link in case you want to donate.
Yeah. And I think it's like also important to say that it's just like queer nightlife might not be for everybody who identifies as queer and gay. And I know people might have their experiences of nightlife not being the most affirming, but I think it's important to know that there is a space for everyone. And what I had to learn as someone who's like a queer, Black, Jewish, like, you know, so many different things. It's that like you can carve a niche out for yourself. And I think it's now more than ever, it's so important to be able to support the people that have been able to create those spaces, so that you can also say like, I'm investing in these people, so once this is over, we can create something that I can fit in.
Yeah.
You know, we all have so much opportunity at this moment because we literally have had the slate cleaned white. So what are we going to build with this?
What are we going to do with it? How are we going to run it?
Girl, we are now more than ever capable of shifting, changing, and making whatever the fuck we want out of nightlife when it comes back. Because it is, again, coming back. Yeah. There's no doubt about it.
We're not going to sit around and cross our hands. It's just, it's not an option. We have to do something about it. As you mentioned, the slate has been cleaned, wiped off completely. How do we rebuild this again?
Absolutely.
Food for thought for tonight. So let's move on to the Q&A questions. We only have a couple.
No stress.
The first one's so flattering. It says, "Why y'all so pretty?" by an anonymous attendee.
Uh, well,
Um,
slide into my DMs.
what is your
I'm beautiful and I have this glow because I have community. And I'm not, I know it sounds super cheesy, but I was in a very unhealthy space for like a long amount of time. And people affirming me, I used to like hide at El Ria, different bars, and like drink my ciders and not talk to anybody and be super shy and nervous. And I had people who encouraged me and took me to places and invited me, and I started to dance, and like I got a six pack out of it.
I love that.
I was able to completely shift the way that I looked because people affirmed me and supported my desire to move and to move to help encourage other people to move.
I love
So
that.
it's corny.
Do you have a social media handle that you want to drop for us?
Oh yeah. So I have underscore Levi Maxwell as my Instagram account. And again, underscore Levi Maxwell. And then I made a Snapchat today. I'm learning how to do it,
Why?
but it's
What made you get a Snapchat? Baby, Snapchat is dead. I'm sorry.
it's just like I had the desire to, you know, something might be in the woodworks with Snapchat and me. I can't confirm nor deny. But it's I believe it's Levi Maxwell SF.
Okay.
But yeah, just follow me on Instagram. I post like periodically in stories. I create a lot of vintage reels of go-go and disco dancers
Oh,
laid over contemporary disco and soul groove music. And I'm just like, oh no, I'm corny. I'm cute.
yes, you sure are, girl. Okay, so we have another question from Kat. And the question is, what is the song you are most looking forward to dancing once we are done with Miss Rona?
Oh, girl.
Coronavirus, for those of y'all that don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah, you go.
Oh geez, you put me on the spotlight that I haven't even thought about it. Um, I just wanna I just wanna dance to any song after we are done with Miss Rona. At this point, my sanity is being tested. I wanna get out of my house. I wanna hug someone. I wanna, be really close to people. So, girl, I can listen to a Beatles song. I don't like the Beatles, by the way. That gives you a little reference. I can listen to a Beatles song, and I can go off.
Yeah.
That's how much I want to do this.
Yeah.
What about you? What's your favorite song?
I want to say like a specific disco song or disco in general, but same. I think one of my big things I learned about nightlife and what I enjoyed out of nightlife wasn't the particular music. It was the people I was surrounded by with. It was the energy that they gave. It was people really being together with intention to share a moment. And again, as corny as it's so corny. I know it's corny, but it's just like my reason of like just going out is just being in a place of joy with other people.
Yeah, I agree
Yeah,
with that. That's
dead
where
ass.
that's where I like to be dead ass. I can be in a parking lot, and if we're feeling joyous, if the beat is there, I love it. I wouldn't trade it for anything, right?
Yeah, I went to this party in like deep East Oakland at like a U-Haul like center that someone's uncle owned, and they like rented it out to us, and it was a whole. I was like, I feel like the oldest person there, but it was all these queer techno kids and drum and bass kids like just pounding music until 5 a.m. And like, was it necessarily my flavor of music? No, but I got hyped off other fucking people's hype, and it was amazing. It took me out of my comfort zone. I would not have gone out there that late at night. I would not have gone that far that night, but it was fucking spectacular. And like, I will always remember that night. Nobody got into a fight, so I'm like, that's good to me.
Okay, I love that. I live in Oakland now, so I'm gonna probably have to go check out any U-Haul parties going around here. Okay, so we have two more questions that we need to answer. This is from Alex. What do you think the first party after this nonsense, Miss Rona, is going to be like? What do you think? I feel like it's gonna be like another like summer of love type of thing. I feel like people are gonna come together. We're gonna have another generation that's going to be birthed out of this. People are just going to be popping out babies because it's gonna be love here, love there. You know, what do you think?
I honestly think for the first couple months, at least wait, let me say this. The first month, because it's a 2 week to 24-day incubation period before showing symptoms. The people who are going to be going out are the people who are going stir crazy and who are about that nightlife. And they're going to go out. The parties are going to be smaller. There's going to be a whole other wave, a much larger wave of people who are waiting to see what happens. People have fear about a second strike. Spanish flu killed more people because there were there's more than one wave. And a lot of people died because they had a false sense of security. I know that the first time I go out, first party that I see that's official after quarantine ends, the majority of people who I call like my core community will be there. And I think after they see us safely being able to have fun and enjoy one another, we're gonna have a massive surge of folks coming to any party. I'm gonna be seeing people who, there's the Castro queens, the Soma queens, the Tenderloin queens. And I can very quickly see, especially with a combination of things, the closure of a number of venues, and then just people being starved, touch starved, and just community starved, just going to anything, and it just being celebratory.
Yeah.
That like the end of like Mean Girls after the big school fight that happens, and like everyone kind of breaks bread. Like it's gonna be cheesy at first,
Yeah.
and of course, old habits and dynamics and power differentiations are gonna go on. But I can certainly say too, people are gonna have a lot less picky, like just a preference type things on their profiles.
Mhm.
Like people are gonna just be grateful. People aren't gonna be like, oh my god, there are too many blanks that were there.
Definitely.
People are just gonna be happy to be there.
They're just gonna be happy to be there. If the cover is $30, people are gonna pay. I know it. That's how happy.
Absolutely. That's also another thing too. People are gonna fucking appreciate the people who make nightlife happen. People are
Yep.
gonna appreciate the bartenders and actually tip them more than $1 for making 7 drinks. People are actually gonna tip them to be able to, tip door people who are making sure that the party is safe,
Yeah.
right? I think we're gonna have hand sanitizer everywhere. I think we're gonna have masks
Oh
everywhere.
yeah.
Um, this is the new normal. Like condoms are not just going to be on people's stuff anymore. Like we're going to have protective barriers and layers everywhere.
Earlier. I agree with you. Okay, so moving
Everywhere. Sorry.
everywhere. We have one last question from Kat again. She says, any other places we should donate to? She saying that she donated to the SF Queer Nightlife Fund. Oh, thank you, Kat. We
Mm,
appreciate you. Any other
Um,
places we donating to? Any
so I'm
places that are at risk, or
the
tell us.
transgender cultural district is providing grants to trans women of color who are in the Tenderloin, $50 grants for food and emergency funds and services. So I would donate to them. But I would also say too, like in a time period where a lot of people were working under the table, people who are drag queens and performers who relied on that for rent and who might not be able to apply for unemployment or may not be able to get the most out of unemployment, to donate as much as possible to places like Queer Nightlife, the Queer Nightlife Fund. But yeah, the Transgender Cultural District run by Arya Saeed and the Tenderloin
Yes,
is a wonderful organization, really helping literally the most disenfranchised people in our community.
definitely. And also to do another plug, Arya Saeed who's the executive director of the Compton's Transgender Culture District.
Not
She's
Compton anymore. We snatched her out. It's the
transgender.
Transgender Cultural District.
We love that. We still stand. She's going to be doing a cyber conversation with us in the third week of April. I don't recall the date exactly, but my guess is April 14th.
Yeah. Also, shameless plug, Aria is my mother. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah. Love
So when I
Arya.
went away to San Francisco, she was another person who was on the streets with me when I was 17, who took me under my wing. It was very much a Pose moment. It's very cheesy because I don't think Pose is real, but that did happen for me. And like the work that she's been able to do as someone who was a homeless person who engaged in sex work in the Tenderloin to be able to like really be a beacon of hope and opportunity, is fucking important. And I can say that nightlife was a facet of her being able to be in the place where she's at today.
Definitely. Well, let's cheers to that.
Yeah.
And this concludes our conversation, y'all. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you to
Bye.
Levi for dropping all this knowledge on us. We really needed this. We really need storytellers like you, and that is how stories um, live through generations.
Thank you.
It's by people that tell them, and you're one of them, Levi. So thank you so much, you
Slide
guys, for
into my
tuning in.
DMs.
Slide into Levi's DM. Their Instagram handle is on the chat box. So if you want to go give them a follow and slide into their DMs, why not?
Why not?
If you're bored at home.
We can always use another pen pal.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Venmo. Oh, do you have a Venmo?
No, pen pal.
Pen pal. Okay. Well, anyway,
Bye.
thank you so much, you guys, for tuning into Manny Super Cyber Conversations. There is a donate link on the chat box in case you want to support our mission of civic engagement despite everything that is going on. Thank you so much, Levi, once again, for being the wonderful moment and the wonderful person that you are.
Thank you so much, Jupiter, for hosting this. You're an amazing and fabulous person. I'm so grateful to know you.
Oh,
honestly.
you. Thank you. I really appreciate you. And remember, I'm coming back to your house after this to pick up that progesterone.
I got you. It's still there.
Okay,
bye,
girl. Thank you so much. Have a good night.